Hello students, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Hope you are all fine. Okay, let's go start our book. It's criticism. This is the part of our second exams, part two exams, the criticism. Student chooses on ability and on wish. That is a criticism. Criticism is a very tough subject, but those students learn very deeply and constantly, then this is not a tough subject. It is a easy subject. Okay, let's we go start. Today our topic is tradition and individual talent. This is the essay of the critic T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot is a poet, critic, and he's a philosopher. Okay, the modern century, 2019, 2020, 20th century poet, critic, and a very brilliant critic. Okay, first our topic name is tradition and individual talent. Next, our first question is what, according to T.S. Eliot, is the importance of literary tradition for the individual writer? The question means what T.S. Eliot explain the importance of literary tradition. Okay, for the individual writer. For example, when anyone wants to become a writer and a poet, and he wrote a poetry for the sake of poetry, then these this essays should very benefit for the writer, for the poet, and the literary student. Okay, next our question is for T.S. Eliot is what is the value and significance of tradition? Next, our question is T.S. Eliot asking about the value and significance of the tradition and literary traditions and the individual writers. What is the value and what is the significance of the individual writer? Okay, and why it is useful, and why it is useful for the writers. This is the essay of T.S. Eliot. Okay, next our question is 2017 included in the syllabus of UOS. Third question, discuss T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot discuss theory of tradition and individual talent. In this essay, T.S. Eliot discuss about the theory of tradition and individual talent. It is not the greatness, the intensity of emotions. T.S. Eliot explain in this essay the emotions of the poet included in the poetry, and in his work, why it is compulsory and why is not compulsory, the emotions, the components, but that intensity of the artistic process, and anyone wants to become a writer and poet, the he surrounded the artistic process. Okay, his pressure, so to speak, under which the fusion take place, that counts. Explain this statement in the light of Eliot as a tradition and individual talent. What relationship, according to T.S. Eliot, must exist between tradition and individual poetic talent? T.S. Eliot says you cannot value the poet alone, you must set him for contrast and comparison. In these questions, the answers given by contrast and comparisons of the values of the literary tradition and individual talent for the any writer and poet. Among that date, in the light of the statements, okay, Explain Eliot's perspective in this essay. Tradition and individual talent. Next, our question is, what is the value of originality in the poet's work? Okay. Answer with reference to your reading of T.S. Eliot is essay Tradition and Individual Talent. Draw closely on T.S. Eliot's Tradition and Individual Talent. Sydney's An Apology. Apology for poetry to identify the explain the qualities of a good poet. Okay. Next question, how is the young writer a disadvantage without a sense of tradition according to T.S. Eliot's essay Tradition and Individual Talent? Next question, how does Eliot conceptualize these traditions and how he can be acquired? Next question, Amara. You cannot value him artist alone. He must be him for contrast and comparison among the dead. Discuss with reference to T.S. Eliot's Tradition and Individual Talent. Tradition and individual talent. Eliot's theory of poetry and the poetic process and personality of poetry. Okay. Let's recount the questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are 12 questions. This question is same and this answer is same in this book. You prepare these questions and you read very constructively and deeply these questions, and this question is learn and read and learn the questions and the quotations, then your question 12 questions is prepared. Okay, let's see read the answer in these 12 questions. The essay Tradition and the Individual Talent. The essay Tradition and Individual Talent may be regarded as an unofficial manifesto of Eliot's critical creed. This is essay of Tradition and Individual Talent. T.S. Eliot is a critic. Okay, as a critic, he wrote and he delivered a speech in a organization. His topic is tradition, related with tradition and individual talent of the poet. Then the newscaster and newspapers auditing the organizations, and when they all newspapers printed this manifesto. Okay, then mostly called the unofficial manifesto of the T.S. Eliot's critical work. Okay, it contains all the critical principles of Eliot, and all the critical principles included in this essay of the Eliot. Eliot describe the critical principles. Then all the Eliot is given the principles in this essay, and this essay is divided into 3 parts. Okay, the first part given us Eliot's concept of tradition. Okay, and the second part with his theory of impersonality of poet. The short and third part is the conclusion of the whole of the discussion. T.S. Eliot began this essay by pointing out that word tradition. First of all, when T.S. Eliot start this essay, then he word tradition used. Okay, and point out the word tradition is generally regarded as a term of senses. Okay, this is the term, man. This is those days the term as regarded of senses. He says, T.S. Eliot says, The word tradition sound disagreeable to the English ears. When the English phrase a poet, they praise him for those aspects of his work which are most individual and original. They suppose that his chief merits lie in such parts. This understood stress on individuality shows that the English have uncritical bent of mind. They praise the poet for the wrong things if they examine the matter critically with an unprejudiced mind. Unprejudiced mind, they will realize that the best and the most individual part of a poet's work is that which shows the maximum influence of the writer of the past. He says, if we approach a poet without prejudices, we shall often find that not only the best, but the most individual part of his work may be those in which the dead poets, his ancestors, assert their immortality most vigorously. After this, Eliot comes to the consideration of the value of significance of tradition. According to Eliot, tradition does not mean a blind adherence to the ways of the past. This would be mere imitation, a mere repetition of what has already been achieved. He believes that novelty is better than repetition. He says that tradition is a sense of passive repetition is to be discouraged. For Eliot, tradition is a matter of which under significance. He says that tradition is the true sense of the term cannot be inherited. It can only be obtained by hard labor. This labor is the labor of none, the past writer. It is the critical labor of none, knowing that what is good and useful in the past. Tradition can be obtained only by those who have the past. Tradition can be obtained only by those who have the historical sense. Okay, the historical sense involves our perceptions not only of the pastors of the past but also of its presence. One who has the historical sense feels that the whole of the literature of Europe from Homer down to his own day, including literature of his own country, forms one continuous literary tradition. He thinks that, for example, Eliot thinks that the past exists in the present and both the past and the present form one simultaneous order. This historical sense is a sense of the timeless and the temporal together. According to T.S. Eliot, it is the historical sense which makes a writer traditional. A writer with a sense of tradition is fully conscious of his own generations in his place in this in present, but at the same time he is also actually conscious of his relationship with the writer of the past. In short, the sense of tradition implies a recognition of the continuity of literature, a critical judgment as to which of the writer of the past is still significance in the present, and a knowledge of these significant writers through a hard and painstaking effort. Okay, that we discuss in the our video is very long. Then we discuss the 3 page. Okay, 2.5 page. Next we start the next video. Okay, student.